last time I got my hands on an IRIX lens was the IRIX 60mm T1.5. This is the brand new IRIX 65mm T1.5 Cine lens.
Yeah, you saved me without even trying. I got a feeling like never before, that all of these miles were worth it. Chasing your heart and running the ghost, 'cause I will be loved by you. 'Cause I got a feeling like never before, that I will be loved by you, babe.
Welcome back to the channel. Now, I review a lot of lenses, and there's something about the IRIX lenses that gets me really excited. Now, we are going to go through the kind of steps of reviewing a lens, which is the physical side, image quality, the full set, and finally, the verdict. These lenses aren't exactly cheap, but when it comes to the world of Cine lenses, I suppose you could call them affordable, where some lenses are going for $300 to $400, and nowadays these are $1,200. Some people may term this as an entry-level Cine lens, but for most creators, this is quite a reach. And the real question is it worth it? Now, for comparison's sake, I did this in the last review. I put the IRIX 30mm up against the Viltrox 33mm T1.5. Very similar focal lengths and also T1.5, and today we're going to do a similar thing with the 56mm T1.5 from Viltrox, just so that I can show you guys an image comparison difference to why you actually pay so much more for a lens like this. Another point that I think you should know is that whenever I review a lens, I never put ND filters. So yes, the shutter speed is cranked way high and it works in slow motion, but in kind of normal footage it does look a little bit choppy because it doesn't have that cinematic effect. But the reason that we do that is purely because we want to show off the true color of the lens to portray that to you, rather than having an ND filter kind of throw that color off. The physical side. The IRIX 65mm T1.5 is an absolute monster of a lens. If you're looking for small, lightweight, and compact, this is not for you. Now, if you're looking for something that's quality, weighty, and kind of adds that weight to your rig to add for that stabilization of footage, then the IRIX lenses are probably the way to go. Now, this is the MFT version. The mount over here is for micro four thirds. Now, if you are shooting with something else, I'm going to get to it in a bit because IRIX literally makes every single mount available. But just so that you know, the MFT version does weigh in at 1,350 grams. So they by no means a very lightweight lens. For a size comparison, this is the IRIX lens next to something that's well known like the Sigma 18-35 with the speed booster for MFT, as well as the Viltrox 56mm. But just so you know, listen to these mounts. IRIX makes the entire set available for Canon EF, RF, Sony E, MFT, Nikon Z, L mount, REPL, and Fuji X. Honestly, I haven't seen a manufacturer yet make a lens adaptable to almost every single camera brand out there. So for comparison's sake, this 65mm on a micro four thirds body like mine and the shots that you see gives us that 130mm focal length. So it is quite zoomed in, very hard to manage, but this is on the longer end if you are going to be kind of manual focusing. If you are shooting full frame and you're buying this with a full frame mount, you are just getting the 65mm. If you are doing, say for instance, a 1.5 times crop, then you're looking at about 97.5mm on your respective camera body. Now, what sets these apart from the usual $300 to $400 Cine lenses is these are actually weather sealed. Most lenses nowadays are kind of metal and they feel kind of hefty and weighty, but this is just different. Yeah, this, you drop it on your foot, you know you dropped it on your foot. Now, they all do. What a feeling. I mentioned it before and I just have to do it again. The fabric that is on here, the way you just... Oh yeah, all the lens hoods actually have the millimeter on top. So unlike me at the moment where, you know, this lens cap just goes on this one and this one, eventually you lose one and you don't know which one you've lost. Nice thing is with IRIX, all of them are labeled. Now they all do boast an 86mm filter thread in the front, but what is really, really nice is the outer ring on all the IRIX Cine lenses are 95mm. So if you are working with 95mm matte boxes, they can actually just go straight over here without any other adapters and screw-ons and step-up rings. Really simple, really designed for the cinema industry. Now this lens does have 11 aperture blades, and the front actually does support the IRIX magnetic mounting system that they do have. So if you are into getting the magnetic mounting system with filters, this does support that too. In fact, all of IRIX's lenses support the magnetic mounting system, except for the 11mm. Now the TStop does go from T1.5 all the way to T16, and the focus throw only has a focus throw of 180 degrees. Now say only 180 degrees. There's nothing wrong with having a focus throw of only 180 degrees. To give you an idea how far that is, it's pretty far. A lot of more affordable Cine lenses are only around the 130mm mark, and the sound that this makes is just so, it's so smooth, so silent. It's got such great feedback to it. It's not slippery. You know, when you let it go, it stays in that spot. Beautiful manufacturing on these lenses. But if you do want to increase the focus throw, little tip. So I often use the PD Movie, the LiDAR version, the PD Movie Live Air 3 Smart, whatever it may be. When the focus gear is attached to the focus throw, even though you're not using the LiDAR, the physical button that is wireless that connects to the PD Movie actually has a 300-degree physical focus throw on that button. What that essentially does is when the motor does measure out the 180 degrees, it converts that 180 degrees into 300 degrees, allowing you to be a lot more precise. So it's pretty cool that the PD Movie has that feature, because if you are really into it, then great, you can get that 300 degree out of it. But just for argument's sake, I had Michelle walk to me, and by hand, so without the PD Movie, I actually pulled focus. Bearing in mind, this is actually 130mm on micro 4/3, and pulled focus with Michelle walking to me, and this shot was first try. Now all these markings on here, the white markings are laser and UV reactive, so it's a little bit easier to see in dimly lit situations. And another thing that I absolutely love about IRIX, and I have, I've seen a lot of lenses and I've used a lot of lenses, and finding technical data sheets is always quite painful because the websites are never the same. But if you go to the IRIX website, all the data is there, the technical data sheets, and they're all laid out exactly the same. Whether you're looking at the 11mm, the 30mm, the 15mm, the 65mm, the 150mm, all of the technical data sheets are exactly the same. So it's very easy to compare the lenses and exactly see what the lenses are offering. Image quality. Now the IRIX 65mm is pretty much darn near perfect. And I suppose you could never really make a perfect lens, because even the perfect lens you would want some characteristic out of it. And that's what makes lenses also different and so much fun to use. Now, like I said with the previous review that I did of the 30mm, that was against the Viltrox, so we're going to put it up against the Viltrox again in the 56mm, just do a side-by-side to kind of show you what this looks like. Also, I do know that this is $1,200, and something like the Viltrox is, $415. But because most videographers and cinematographers are trying to usually jump ship when they're watching a review, something like this is more relatable, even though it's not exactly apples with apples. So the IRIX is 65mm, giving us 130mm, and the Viltrox is 56mm, essentially giving us 112mm. So what I did firstly, set the tripod up, put the IRIX on, took a shot, put the 56mm on of the Viltrox, took a shot, and you can see that the Viltrox is a little bit wider. So for comparison's sake, what we did was we moved the shots with the Viltrox a little bit closer, just so that the framing could be an even kind of fair fight, if you will. Now you can see that the IRIX is a little warmer too. And I've noticed that with the very first IRIX that I had a look at, the 30mm, they're slightly warmer than the Viltrox lens, and it's a nice warmness. It adds to that skin tone, especially the skin tone that you get off the LUMIX. Really, really pretty. Now there's a few things to look at when you're looking at these different shots side by side, but for now, look at the bokeh difference as well, and I'll get to the sharpness in a bit. This is the IRIX at T1.5, and this is the Viltrox at T1.5. This is the IRIX at T2. This is the Viltrox at T2. This is the IRIX at T2.8, and this is the Viltrox at T2.8. This is the IRIX at T4, and this is the Viltrox at T4. Now side by side, you can see that the IRIX bokeh is a lot softer. Not just that, but the bokeh has far less chromatic aberration in it. It's one thing that we noticed before. The bokeh balls that you do get on the IRIX lenses do not have a lot of pink and green fringing in them, as opposed to a lot of other more affordable lenses. Sadly, what we did was, when we did review this, and you'll see in the side by side, the sun did move behind a tree, so Michelle doesn't have, on the Viltrox, doesn't have that hairlight that's on her, although the time of day was pretty much the same. We're looking at, like, 2 minutes apart over here, and just unfortunately she had that shadow casted on her. Now for the pixel peepers out there, and it is always good to pixel peep, if anyone tells you it's not, they are absolutely lying, because that is how we admire lenses. When looking at the sharpness at T1.5 and at T2, both these lenses are pretty much equally sharp. The IRIX possibly a fraction sharper. Now Sony lenses aren't really supposed to be overly sharp. Bonus if they are, some people do not like it. It just depends. But there is one thing that no one really talks about when it comes to more expensive lenses, and it's something that I have seriously seen with the IRIX lenses. You would assume that this would just apply to dynamic range of a camera, but if you look at the roll-off on the skin tones, it's so much smoother with the IRIX lens. I don't know if it is the neutrino coating that they've got, although the neutrino coating is for the fancy chromatic aberration reduction. But these lenses are definitely playing a part, that the highlight roll-off is just so great. Even when you have some harsh hotspots, it just looks so much better on this lens as opposed to other lenses that I shoot with. So talking about that neutrino coating, take a look at these side-by-sides for the chromatic aberration. This is the IRIX at T1.5. This is the Viltrox at T1.5. The Viltrox does have a lot of green and pink chromatic aberration, where the IRIX definitely has a little bit of green, but it's really not that bad. Bearing in mind, this is probably best case scenario, or worst case, whatever you want to call it, for pulling out chromatic aberration. Pointing a lens at trees and looking for that major contrast between the sun and the shaded areas of the branches and the leaves, really what accentuates chromatic aberration. This is why when you're pointing at Michelle in all the shots, you don't see chromatic aberration halos around her skin. It's just because to pull out chromatic aberration at that level, you really have to take it to an extreme. Now, if you're wondering how the IRIX looks at higher T-stops and also the starbursts, check this out.
T4, T5.6, T8, T11, T16.
Now, when it comes to focus breathing, the IRIX 65mm is really not that bad at all. Most of the IRIX lenses, I believe, do have very little focus breathing, and the 30mm had practically none. But as soon as a lens does get a little bit longer, you will notice focus breathing. Now, the focus breathing on the 65 is very minimal. But one thing that I always say when it comes to focus breathing is, do not look at the out of focus elements that throws you off in terms of focus breathing. You kind of need to look at how the lens actually zooms in and out. Just bear in mind that I'm busy doing this handheld, and this isn't done on a tripod. Now, I didn't do a brick test for you. I don't often do brick tests, and I do talk about why I don't always do a brick test, because often you're not looking for everything in focus in terms of one plane. Right now, if I'm filming a shot, I really couldn't care if the lens was soft maybe here or here. It would add some character to it. But once you do move to something like a 65mm, you pretty much have everything in focus. A lot of the times when you're looking at, slightly wider lenses like the 15 or 21mm, somewhere there, then you should be doing brick tests, because wider lenses may need to have a lot more in focus, so you don't want to have random odd soft elements in the corners. The full set. Now, as I mentioned earlier, IRIX does have 8 different mounts for these lenses. So whether you want to buy the entire set, which is 11mm, 15, 21, 30, 45, 65, 150 telephoto and a 150 macro. So that's 7 to 8 lenses. You can get them in any one of those mounts. And all of them are T1.5 except for the 11mm and the 15mm. Also, the T-stop and focus gear is in the exact same spot across the entire range. So if you're swapping these out on a rig, perfect. If you are swapping them out on a gimbal and you're jumping from the widest lens to the more zoomed in lens, could be a little bit more tougher. Now, IRIX does sell these in sets, so you could actually buy a set with specific lenses and you do get a slightly better price. The verdict: The truth is, the only problem that I have with this lens is that I don't have them all as yet. The 30mm that we did use was a loan unit from Photo24, and ever since then we've been chatting to IRIX to hopefully build up this kit. So this 65mm is officially ours. This is our lens. So we have been speaking to IRIX, and we are hopefully going to bring you so much more, including lens comparisons, so we can compare the color across the entire range and shoot an entire project on the IRIX lenses to show you why we love these lenses so much. Also, if you want to see something pretty cool, this was this monstrous lens with the GH5S on the Zhiyun Crane 4. First try shot, and bearing in mind we did have I think the axis wasn't level because we were in POV mode, but just to kind of give you an idea, manually pulling focus on the Zhiyun Crane, this is the shot that we got. Also, it was ice cold, so the Ninja Walk was way out of the question. Michelle was freezing, I was freezing, was the last shot of the day, and we just wanted to get home. And I pulled focus using the camera monitor and not my 7-inch OC that I usually use. So yeah, I cannot wait to build my set of IRIX lenses. I absolutely love this lens. All the footage that you've seen here is shot with the IRIX lens. It's an amazing lens, absolutely love it. Love the brand, love the quality. We have used and abused this lens in the time being getting all these very cool shots. We really just hope we can bring you so much more content like this with the IRIX lenses. I will leave a link in the description where you can head over and check out the IRIX lenses, or if you do want to pick one up, you can. Honestly, these are currently the best lenses that we have ever used, and I absolutely love them. So thanks for watching. Wherever you are in the world, have a good day, good evening, good night, goodbye.